Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Energy Development Corporation's earnings call on its 1H 2015 financial and operating results. I will now turn over the floor to Mr. Erudito Riccio, Head of Energy Development Corporation's Investors Relations. Mr. Riccio, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Energy Development Corporation's conference call to discuss its financial and operating results for the period ending June 30, 2015. As a reminder, this presentation will be posted in the Investor Relations page of the company's website shortly. We have likewise subscribed to a playback of this call for 30 days from our service provider, PGI. The corresponding passcodes will be made available upon request by all concerned from EDC Investor Relations. With me in the room right now is our President and COO, Mr. Ricky Tantoco, our Senior Vice President and Chief Finance Officer, Mr. Nestor Vasay, our VP for Corfin, Erwin Abante, Mr. Paul Cerulo, Chief Technology Advisor, has dialed in and will be our technical resource person for today's call. Before handing the we also have with us Dennis Gonzalez, who is Asset Manager for the Pantabangan Masiway project. Before handing the floor over to the next speaker, I would like to remind everyone that comments made for the call's duration may include forward-looking statements that are based on current expectations and as such are subject to a variety of risks and uncertainties that would cause actual results to differ materially from current expectations. I will now turn over the floor to Erwin Abante for a discussion of first half financial results.
Thank you, Boy. If you have the deck in front of you, on slide 5, there are basically 4 major events that transpired during the first 6 months of the year. First is that the 150 megawatt Burgos Wind project have already started collecting the feed-in tariff from Transco. Remember that sometime in April 2015, the Energy Regulatory Commission granted the certificate of compliance to the project, specifying that it is entitled to the FIT rate of 853 per kilowatt hour from November 2014 to November 2034, or a period of 20 years. No? So as of the first half, we've already accrued in our books about 560 million of feed-in tariff differentials for the period November 2014 to June 2015. No? This was not accrued in the first quarter, again, because we've only gotten the FIT COC by April of this year. The project, however, is curtailed to about half of its capacity as the Lawag-San Esteban line, which is the transmission line south of Lawag, is still being upgraded. Note that all the new wind farms in Ilocos Norte are actually similarly situated, no? i.e. they are curtailed as of the moment. Second, we have successfully refinanced the 8.5 billion retail bond that matured last June 2015, and what we did is we secured a separate loan agreement with different banks for the same total amount of about 8.5 billion, but at a lower coupon or interest rate at the subsidiary level. Third, we have experienced unplanned outages on our Tongonan Unit 2 and Bacpan Unit 3 power plants, which materially affected our financial performance. Recall that Bacman Unit 3 auto-tripped last March 5 due to a minor lube oil leak, while Tongonan Unit 2 went on an unplanned outage in early March due to turbine blade failure. Both units are now operating normally. They've returned to service last April 7 and July 7 respectively. Our OPEX has also gone up significantly, mainly due to typhoon-proofing expenses as well as O&M expenses of our new projects. And then number 4, EC had its foray in the solar space with the construction of a 4.16 megawatt solar farm in Burgos, Ilocos Norte, right beside the wind farm. Preparations are also underway to expand this by another 2 megawatts in the coming months. On slide 6, this shows you a summary of our financial performance for the first 6 months. And I'll just run you through quickly as I have a separate discussions for the major drivers in the succeeding slides. No? So consolidated revenues increased by about 10% from 15.2 billion to about 16.8 billion. EBITDA dropped by about 1% for the first half as the increase in revenues were offset by higher operating expenses. Consolidated recurring net income attributable to equity holders of the parent stood at 4.7 billion, down by 14% as compared with the same period last year of about 5.4 billion. On slide 7, this shows you the movement of revenues by the different business units. No? The major drivers for the increase in revenues are as follows. For the wind project, it contributed an additional revenue of about 0.9 billion pesos. For the Bacman 3 unit operation, contributed another 0.7 billion increase in revenues. For our Negros Island assets, they've contributed an additional 0.4 billion pesos, and this is coming mainly from the commissioning of the Nasulo Power Plant, which was commissioned last July 2014. But these were offset by lower revenue contributions of about 0.4 billion and 0.1 billion from our Leyte and Pantabangan Masiway assets. No? Latest revenue decline mainly due to the outage of the Tongonan Power Plant. Based on our initial estimate, we think that our maximum potential revenue could have reached 17.9 billion for the first 6 months of the year, assuming the absence of unit outages and the transmission line issues in Lawag. Without the unit outages, Leyte and Bacman's revenues could have potentially increased by an additional 0.7 billion and 0.1 billion respectively. But the opportunity lost from the curtailment of Burgos due to the Lawag San Esteban transmission is estimated at about 0.4 billion. On slide 8, it shows you the performance of each power plant. The first one is on Leyte. Revenue from the Leyte increased by about 1%, but this is mainly due to the contribution of the 40 megawatt IPPA strips amounting to about 763 million. As a result, average selling price increased by about 4.8% from 3.12 pesos per kilowatt hour to 327 pesos per kilowatt hour, which is brought about by the IPPA mainly, no? And a certain portion depreciation of the peso against the US dollar. But this was offset by lower sales volume, no? From 1,755 gigawatt hours to about 1,675 gigawatt hours. For the green core assets, Palimpinon, Tongonan, both of these revenues decreased primarily as a result of lower volume and lower average tariff, no? Palimpinon sales volume decreased by 5% from 700 gigawatt hours to 664 gigawatt hours, as we had to put on preservation mode the existing 20 megawatt power plant. We can accommodate the Nasulo power. As I was saying, the sales volume of Tongonan dropped by 20% from 411 gigawatt hours to 329 gigawatt hours due to unplanned power plant outages. The average blended tariff for Palimpinon Tongonan only decreased by 2.3% from 518 pesos per kilowatt hour to 5.06 pesos per kilowatt hour as a result of a repricing of our contracts. No? We had some trading activities that resulted to a lower tariff decrease, no, for Palimpinon Tongonan. But if we net it out of the trading activities, the drop in tariff could have been larger, no, by about 4.7%, from 5.22 per kilowatt hour to about 4.98 per kilowatt hour. The third one, with respect to Bacman, the revenues increased by 45% or close to 700 million, And again, the reason for this is that we have all power plant units operating in the first half of 2015. The increase in revenues was partly offset by lower average blended tariff from 482 to 462 per kilowatt hour, or down by about 4%, because some of this were being sold to the spot market. One of the contracts with Meralco, which is 50 megawatts, is still awaiting approval from the Energy Regulatory Commission, and as of the moment, it's being sold to the spot market. Number 4 is our hydro plant. The revenue from Pantaban Masiway decreased by 6% due to lower sales volume and lower tariff. The water reservoir, the lower water from the reservoir resulted to lower sales volume from 315 gigawatt hours to 280 gigawatt hours. And the blended tariff also dropped by 12% from 488 pesos per kilowatt hour to 431 pesos per kilowatt hour. Mindanao, it's a bit flat, so I won't go into that. And then the last 3 items are mainly our newly commissioned capacities. Burgos, Nasulo, and Solar contributed 913 million, 697 million, and 8 million respectively for the first 6 months. No? Moving on slide 9. This summarizes the movement of the operating expenses for the first half of 2015, and it increased by about 31% or 2.2 billion. For Leyte, the OPEX increased due mainly to higher expenses related to Typhoon Yolanda and Senyang rehab costs. About 202 million is due to those typhoon repair costs. Power plant O&M and maintenance also increased by about 139 million. And higher operating costs for our steam field of about 130 million. Another major driver for the higher OPEX is obviously for Burgos, mainly depreciation amounting to 328 million and O&M costs of about 63 million. For the energy strip, they added an additional OPEX of about 323 million as a result of higher payment to PISALM vis-a-vis what we are actually collecting from PISALM as part of our take-or-pay arrangement. Negros Island's OPEX also increased due to Nasulo, depreciation of about 127 million and O&M costs of about 41 million. Similarly, for Bacman, there were increases in power plant O&M of about 47 million, depreciation of about 40 million, and Typhoon Glenda rehab cost of about 40 million. On slide 10, as you can see here, because of the increases in revenue and largely offset by increase in OPEX, the consolidated recurring net income decreased by 13% or about 0.8 billion. So in summary, Bacman, as far as core income is concerned, added about 0.5 billion. Burgos, despite the fact that we were curtailed to about half of our capacity, is break-even. But the shutdown of Tongonan Unit 2 and the higher OPEX brought mainly by typhoon repair-related expenses, as well as lower output of Pantaban Masiway, as well as the end of its income tax holiday, dragged the drop in core income for the first half of 2015. In terms of our balance sheet and cash flow, cash generated from operations during the first half stood at about 12 billion. And then we borrowed early this year, again to refinance our 8.5 billion bonds, as well as the balance from the project financing of the wind project of about 9.4. And then we used those to actually service some of our debt amounting to about 11.7 billion. CapEx for the first 6 months is about 6.4 billion, and about 2 billion was actually used for the payment of cash dividends. On slide 12, just on the financial ratios, the current ratio improved due to lower current liabilities after we paid the peso bond last June. Both the debt to equity and net debt to EBITDA weakened a bit, but they're still at manageable levels, mainly because of higher debt and net debt, resulting mainly from the project financing of the Burgos Wind project, which was availed October of last year. For the next session, I'll turn you over to our President and COO, Mr. Ricky Pantoja.
Thank you, Erwin. On slide 14, we just have a slide that situates the feed-in tariff. So the feed-in tariff allowance in the Philippine renewable energy regime represents the difference between the FIT price corresponding to the RA technology and the prevailing WESM clearing price. For our Burgos wind project, this corresponds to the difference between the 853 per kilowatt hour for wind technology, which we were given as a base price, and the prevailing WESM market clearing price. EDC is already collecting from Transco at the prescribed 853 pesos per kilowatt hour on the basis of a signed Renewable Energy Payment Agreement, or REPA, with Transco. For the electricity generated after Burgos declared commercial operations, but prior to REPA's execution, the arrangement is to bill these amounts over the next 3 to 4 months. Turning over to slide 15, just to explain the curtailment of Burgos, as of August 11, 2 days ago, when we look at the erection works that are ongoing, the foundations for the towers are 97% complete. The actual tower erections themselves are 92% complete, and the stringing is about 50% complete as of 2 days ago. This is a total of about 312 spans. So there's about 155 spans of stringing that have to take place. NGCP as of now has 5 crews doing 2 spans a day, or an average of about 10 a day. And they expect that the stringing should be done in the next 30 to 45 days, following which there will be commissioning works done on this line. So we expect this San Esteban constraint to be resolved within the 4th quarter. The sooner in the 4th quarter it's resolved, the better for us, because October, November, and December are the large production months for the Burgos wind project. Moving on to slide 16. We had an issue with Tongonan earlier this year, which took one of the units out on March 8th, which didn't come back until around July. It was our expectation at that time to be able to use a spare turbine rotor. Unfortunately, when we put that turbine rotor in service, even with Mitsubishi consultants in the Philippines, we couldn't get the vibration levels of that spare rotor that was last used in 2010 within the acceptable technical limits. So be that as it may, the unit has been brought back, and that's caused a total outage in the first half of this year of around 400 million pesos. Going forward, Tongonan's retrofit to improve its reliability, output, and efficiency commenced January of last year with the design and discussions with 2 suppliers. We finally placed the order with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in January of this year, and commencing the second half of next year, each unit of Tongonan will be brought down for a period of 30 to 45 days to do the retrofit of the hot steam path and to completely rehabilitate the generators. So if you look at the chart on your upper right, the Mitsubishi scope is a little shy of 1 billion pesos, the retrofit of the turbines. There will be an uprate component also through the generator rehab and the transformer, busbar, and cooling tower works that will be undertaken. And then going forward, over a period of 3.5 years until the end of 2018, various pumps, control systems, and components of the Tongonan power will be changed. But it is our expectation that by the end of next year and the early part of 2017, the Tongonan rehab works will be done, and the reliability issues that plague us today, which have resulted in a poor 75.8% reliability factor, will be a thing of the past. Turning over to the next page, slide 17, which is actually our last slide, we are ready to move ahead with our first greenfield plant post-privatization. This is a 31 megawatt plant, and it should be ready by 4th quarter of 2017. We expect in the next week or so to commence early start works with the EPC supplier. And that project is for delivery 27 months from now. That's all we had by way of any updates. Thank you very much.
Okay, Nora, can you now open the floor to the Q&A session. We are ready to entertain questions from among those who have dialed in.
Thank you, sir. The question and answer session will be conducted electronically. If you would like to ask a question, please do so by pressing the star key followed by the digit 1 on your touch-tone telephone. We will proceed in the order in which you signal us and will take as many questions as time permits. If you are using a speakerphone, please be sure your mute function is turned off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Once again, please press star 1 on your touch-tone telephone to ask a question. If you find your question has already been answered, you can remove yourself from the queue by pressing the star key followed by the digit 2 on your telephone keypad at any time. We will now pause for a moment to assemble a queue. Our first question comes from the line of Ajay Milchandani from JP Morgan. Ajay, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Yep, thank you so much for the call. A couple of questions from me. One was, I just wanted to get a sense, usually your take-or-pay contract with NPC has some kind of adjustment in second quarter because it's usually the annual ending of that contract, which is the July to June. And I just wanted to check if there was any kind of one-off impacts or adjustments in the earnings or the revenues on the back of that. The second question I wanted to just check was in terms of management's confidence level on the actual transmission line for the wind farm actually getting resolved in the next 30-45 days. These are my two questions. Thanks.
Yeah. Hi, AJ. This is Erwin. With respect to your first question on the take-or-pay adjustment, the PPA contract that we have with NPC is that it allows for a monthly escalation or the escalation of tariff depending on the foreign exchange rate as well as the different inflation indices. So therefore, there's no one-time adjustment as far as the tariff is concerned on the take-or-pay contract.
The question was more in terms of the gigawatt hours because you got a take-or-pay level which usually has to be met for the year. So at some point of time, sometimes because the fourth quarter is kind of the adjusting period, that's where my question was coming from.
Okay, no, we've actually been adjusted our gigawatt hour forecast for the Unified Data Power Plant. That's what you're asking.
So is it spread equally through the year?
Yes, we've already factored in as of June 30, whatever will be, the take-or-pay or whatever the actual is that cannot be delivered under the take-or-pay contract with NPC.
So, sorry, just to clarify that, because I was always under the impression you book it based on actuals and then the last quarter usually has the adjustment based on the actual take-or-pay contract level. And I just wanted to understand that, just confirm that. So effectively in the fourth quarter, if I simply look at those adjustments on a quarterly basis, you should see a flat line. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. AJ, what we actually do is earlier in the year, if we see that the delivered energy is going to be short of the nominated energy that was done in July of the previous year, in our books, which is already reflected in the numbers that we have released today, we already make our own internal monthly adjustments. We provision. So there's no big one-time hit that happens in July 25 of this year or July 24 of this year when the previous contract year ends.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you.
Clear? Okay. On your second question, I don't think we should assume that NGCP will complete the works in 45 days. From the various players in the industry, we understand that about 90% of their projects are actually behind schedule. And with transmission lines, our experience has been it doesn't boil down to the progress of each component. It actually depends if there's one last remaining difficult landowner. So based on our weekly monitoring with them, and we have another one coming up on Monday with their CEO, things seem to be moving well. But internally, our assumption is this will not get done until the end of this year. Because typhoons happen, surprises happen until the end of the year. If it happens by September 30th, which gives us the whole fourth quarter to generate revenues, then there will be an upside on Burgos of about 500 million. That's the amount that's the value at risk for the last quarter. Depending on the wind regime, about 500 to 550 million. So we're working double time and we're actually using our own contractors paid for by the company to assist in NGCP works, including providing crew and providing equipment, because the cost of those interventions is nothing compared to the revenue upside. But for conservatism purposes, we're assuming that this will not get done until around December 31st of this year.
Once again, if you would like to ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone at this time. Your next question comes from the line of Alvin Arogo from Credit Suisse Philippines. Alvin, your line is now open. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Just 3 questions. One on slide 7. I think there was a number there, 17.9 maximum potential revenue. Just wondering what the figures would be at the EBITDA and net income levels. And then second, on slide 6, I think the EBITDA margin for the first half is 58%. Just wondering what's your view or outlook for the EBITDA margin for next year. And final question is actually just to double check, for Tongonan, will it continue to operate at current levels until you actually start the rehab works next year?
I'd like to answer the question on Tongonan first. Alvin, thank you for the question. So far, if we look at Tongonan's records, it has had 3 various units, has had 3 outages this year. Tongonan Unit 3 had a 6-day outage in January, and it had a 7-day outage in June. Tongonan Unit 2 had a long outage from March 8th through July 7th. We just took down another Tongonan unit this week, and it went back online at 2 p.m. today, which is Unit 2 also, for trimming of the vibration levels. So, those kinds of works are sort of ongoing, and it's, absent any shocks, the unit should be operating as they go, but the average, if you look at the average reliability of the Tongonan plant, it's really been at about the 75 to 76 level. Now, next year, in July and August, we'll be taking the first unit down to upgrade that. And it's only after those upgrades are done do we expect the levels to shoot up to the 95 to 98% reliability level. But until then, I think a safe assumption for Tongonan will be hovering around the 75%. Because we have, small things to fix every now and then.
Yeah, Alvin, for the first 2 questions, on the first question, what would have been the EBITDA and net income? If you look at the opportunity loss on the revenue side, these are mainly the total amount of opportunity losses. So we expect that they would go and flow through directly to the EBITDA as well as the net income. Because, again, if you look at our business, it's mainly predominantly fixed cost. And therefore, whatever incremental or opportunity loss in terms of revenue, we expect that to flow through directly down. As for next year, based on our internal forecast, we expect EBITDA margin to be in the range of about 60 to 61% level.
Okay, very clear. Thank you very much.
The next question comes from the line of Dina Wison from UBS. Dina, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to ask, can we expect the same performance roughly from EDC's plans for the second half of the year, or are there other things we have to factor in? And also, Burgos was able to break even for the first half of 2015 despite the curtailed output. Can we also expect Burgos to break even for 2015, even if the transmission lines are upgraded end of this year or early next year?
Yeah, I'll answer the Burgos first. If right now we're break even as far as the net income is concerned for Burgos, by end of this year, if ever the transmission curtailment gets resolved, we expect an upside of about 0.5 billion pesos, and therefore we will barely hit the positive level. That's because if you look at the expenses of Burgos, again, it's predominantly depreciation and interest expense. And therefore, given that the next 6 months would be very critical as far as the transmission is concerned, if ever we do generate additional revenues from absent the curtailment, then that would bring us to positive territory. Otherwise, we may be slightly below or negative, no, as far as net income is concerned. Cash flow-wise, we expect it to be still positive, again, because the annual depreciation that we normally expect, no, from this wind project is close to about 1 billion pesos. And then for the first question, if we would expect the same expectations, we don't expect any major surprises as far as recurring net income concerned in the second half. So we expect that there will be continuing OPEX on the typhoon proofing, as well as increased OPEX on the operating or newly operated units and projects.
Okay, thank you very much.
Your next questions come from the lines of Isa Fernandez from Deutsche Bank. Isa, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi guys. Sorry, I have a few questions. First, on your OPEX, could you provide guidance on the cash OPEX or OPEX you're expecting for the full year this year and next year? And with regard to your EBITDA margin guidance of 60 to 61%, is that where you expect it to normalize, 2017 onwards, or do you expect costs to be rationalized further? Second is with regard to Leyte. There seems to have been a drop in your sales volumes. Does this already include the sales from the Unified Leyte strips? And also, could you let us know what your adjusted forecast is for Unified Leyte, the plant itself? Finally, with regard to the increase, the increase in OPEX with regard to the Tongonan outage, I see in slide 16 that you expect 435 million to be 435 million in expenses this year. Was this already reflected in 2Q? And are these costs? Could you break it down between OPEX and CAPEX? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Isa, for the question. So, with respect to the cash OPEX for this year, I think the budget that we had is around 14.5 billion pesos, as far as cash OPEX is concerned. With respect to the EBITDA margin, 58% now. By next year, we expect it to be 60%. We're just looking at our projections for 2017. And we're also looking at about 60%. So more or less, we think that it will be at around that level at least in the next 18 to 24 months. No? For number two, I'll start with the next one will be number three. I'll answer number three first. With respect to the increase in Tongonan, I think the ones that were presented in slide 16 are mainly capital expenditures. No? So the entire amount of about 435 or 4.3 billion for the entire rehab of phase 2 will likely be capitalized going forward. No? For number two.
Isa, this is Ricky. No? On your question on Unified Leyte, there's been a drop in volume from 1,755 gigawatt hours last year to 1,675 this year. This was primarily driven down by one plant. No? There have been other minor outages on the other units of Upper Mahiao, but there is a plant called the Malitbog bottoming plant, right, which uses the hot fluids for a second flash to generate about 12 megawatts. That 12 megawatts net, no, that plant has been down under maintenance for several issues that are being rectified, including something to do with the exciter. The forecast for that unit is to be back around end of this month. That's the main driver for the drop in the volume in Unified Leyte.
Okay, thanks, guys. Sorry, if I can ask a quick follow-up question. Are there still right-of-way issues with regard to the transmission line at Burgos?
We were told that one right-of-way issue, the most major one, has been resolved. And based on our own verification, eyes on the ground, erection is actually taking place in the 3 towers located on the property of a certain politician or former politician called Governor Singson. But that seems to have been resolved and work is already ongoing.
Okay. Sorry, but so there is still some minor right-of-way issues pending?
From what we know today, Isa, there seems to be none. There seems to be free and ready access to all the sites. It's a question of ramping up their workforce, and we get updates. Yeah, we get updates every Monday.
Okay, thanks.
Your next question comes from the line of Jason Escaltin from FYAP Securities. Jason, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity to ask a question. My only remaining question concerns your FX exposure. Given the recent devaluation of the peso, what type of downside are we looking at that, and how are we managing it?
Okay. With respect to the forex, if you look at the total net monetary dollar liability of the company as far as forex is concerned, right now it's about $480 million. Of that, about $90 million have been converted via cross-currency swap. So we've actually converted some of our floating dollar into fixed peso. Round numbers about $90 million. So that leaves us with about $390 billion net exposure. And then if you look at our contracts, predominantly with NPC, these are indexed to the dollar. On a monthly basis, if we just play conservative and we don't convert some of this, assuming we don't buy dollars from the market, the net effect to us for every peso depreciation is that the revenues would have increased by about $110 million. So net, you're looking at $280 million. $280 million. So in effect, if the peso depreciates by 1 peso, the forex net forex impact to us, netting off the adjustment in revenue, is about 280 million pesos.
Just confirm that's positive.
Negative. So if the peso depreciates, yeah. If we net out the swaps that we did as well as the natural hedge that we have in our contract, it's about 280. But having said that, that's on the translation loss only. With respect to our debt repayment, we're still, we don't have much dollar obligations to pay this year and next year. So they're all unrealized forex losses, if ever the peso would continue to depreciate.
Right. Got it. Thank you so much.
Your next question comes from the line of Ajay Michandani from JP Morgan. Ajay, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Irvin, just to follow up, the 280 million number you said was in pesos for every 1 peso drop in currency relative to the dollar. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Because the net exposure is $280, so times 1 peso, it's 280 million pesos.
I had 3 other questions. One was, in terms of the EBITDA margin, why are you only guiding 60-61% even into 2017? And the reason I ask is because if you are having the Tongonan rehab and you'd assume all the assets come back online, one would have thought EBITDA margins should kind of normalize back to the higher levels. Any reason that management's only guiding for even into 2016 and 17 the 60-61% levels? Just trying to get a sense on is that being downplayed because of the United Late-Age strips, which is hurting the blended margin?
Yeah. Well, conservatively, we're looking at 60% to 61% EBITDA margin. Again, the major reason behind that is obviously going forward as we go through some of the Tongonan retrofit which will start next year. Some of these units will be offline and therefore won't be contributing as much moving forward. I think also going forward we are...
they won't be contributing as much because of the planned outages next year during the upgrade. So pretty much from end of July, 1st of October until the end of the year, we will have at least one unit down the entire time, and that will continue until February 2017. But your question, Ajay, on the EBITDA margin, I think for Tongonan, you're correct. The number should be significantly higher because included in the turbine retrofit is an uptick in the output of 10.5 megawatts total for the plant, and that's pretty much straight to the bottom line. So we need to take a look at the numbers going out to 2017, and by that time there should be a healthy realization of higher EBITDA margins.
Okay, and two more questions. One was just on NPC receivables. Is that still standing at the same levels? And the other question I had was if you could just run us through on the strips whether they're actually earnings positive. When I'm looking at the numbers, they seem positive, but I just wanted to kind of confirm how it is looking on EBITDA and bottom line for the strips. Thank you.
Right. With respect to the strips, it's actually a net loss business for the first half of the year. There was a base price of 4.6629 in 2013. Today that price is 5.09. Every month for the kilowatt hours attendant to the strips, we pay the government 5.09. This is of end May pricing. We have one signed power purchase agreement for a small amount of the output for 5 megawatts. A second one was signed yesterday. A third one we expect to sign next week. And all of these are at the 5.39 level selling price. So for 15 of the 40 megawatts, we expect to realize a margin of about 30 centavos. But the balance, as we continue to sell at depressed WESM prices, are actually going to lose money. So first half of this year, we've lost, I think the net loss on the strips is about 100 million pesos for the first half of the year. That I think will be dampened a little bit in the second half of the year, and we're going to try to get more customers at the selling price of the 5.3984 level, which we've successfully done with 3 customers so far.
For the second question with respect to the NPC receivable, if you're asking the one that emanated from the Typhoon Yolanda discussions, it's still the same, EJ.
Okay, and just to clarify on the strips, when you say that there'll be a portion which is losing, so I'm assuming the 300 odd number that you have on slide number 9, which is 323, that's excluding any expenses of the cost of power. The 323 million is just an OPEX number, a pure. The confusion is because when I'm looking at the number on slide 8, it says it includes revenues of 763 with costs of 323. So I'm just trying to understand, is that simply because a certain component is being excluded here?
Yeah, the way it works is that in terms of revenues now of the strip, gross revenue, that's about 750 million round numbers. Okay, the amount that we actually paid to PISAM is 850 million. But so that's net. That's the reason why we have 100 million loss. No, now the 300 here came as a result because we paid PISAM 850, but the take or pay contract that's actually paid to us by PISAM is only 550. So net, there's around 300 that is reflected as OPEX, no, after we eliminate the revenue from the Unified Leyte portion, not from the ITPA portion.
Sorry, I lost you there because so are you saying that the 763 number is not included in the first half? Which is where I would have assumed.
Yeah, no, it's included. No, if you focus on the OPEX side, for consolidation, you just add item by item. What was added on the OPEX by the strip business is about 850 million, right? But the revenue of Unified Leyte is around 550, and that amount has been eliminated when we go to consolidation. That's why the net amount is about 300 million as far as OPEX is concerned. But the true picture is 100 loss practically.
Your next question comes from the line of Jeremy Hicks from Green Dragon Fund. Jeremy, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Afternoon, guys. Ricky, actually, I just wanted to get an update or ask on an update of the status now of the outstanding insurance claims, whether from damage from Yolanda, Glenda, Burgos, etc. What's the overall situation at the moment?
Yeah, if we look at it, you want to?
Yeah, well, to date, we've collected about 650 million by way of partial payment, and we're about to file for Yolanda, and we're about to file a claim with insurance companies towards the end of this month. So, and we expect to collect a bit more before the end of the year.
The total collections for material damage so far.
About 600
from day one.
total.
Yeah. So Jeremy, if I were to put it in large buckets, right? You have the Yolanda material damage claims. We've recovered 1.2 billion out of a total of total claim
2.2
of about 2.2 on the material damage. On the business interruption insurance, that's the one that's about to be filed at the end of this month. On the outage of Bachmann, we're very, very close to a legal resolution with the insurers, which should be disclosed to the market in the next probably couple of weeks. So that's being settled.
Many thanks for that, Ricky. Thank you very much.
Your next question comes from the line of Krisa Bondad from Philippine Equity Partner. Krisa, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to follow up on the second half expectations. So what's the earnings guidance for the rest of the year?
Krisa, this is Ricky Tantoco. We normally do not provide earnings guidance except to say that if you assume that Burgos, the transmission line is not resolved, the major source of upside in the second half will be removed. And then we expect to continue to invest. Unfortunately, it's booked as OPEX on typhoon proofing. There's a lot of work that's undergoing right now in terms of strengthening pipe supports and doing all sorts of things to strengthen the facilities once and for all, so that we don't have a situation like we had last year, which was the numbers for Unified Leyte were looking very, very good, and then December 5, Typhoon Ruby hits us, and we have a huge issue. And then towards the end of the year, the last typhoon of the year hit us. Typhoon Senyang again causes havoc. So I think the guidance is we will continue to invest. Some of it we are arguing with the auditors to recognize as capex instead of OPEX. We've been unsuccessful in a lot of the line items. But we will continue to invest until the end of this year, and I think the major benefits of these investments, including the money that we're spending on the Burgos, the San Esteban transmission line owned by NGCP, but is going to benefit us and a competitor's project. That particular spend will not be recoverable in the future, but will accelerate or reduce the risk of revenues at risk. So. Similar to the message we gave to you guys after the stockholders meeting, compared to last year, we're expecting just in general a flattish or a lackluster year as we build and resolve the issues headed for next year.
Okay, thank you.
Your last question comes from the line of Jason Escartin from FYAP Securities. Jason, your line is open. Please go ahead.
To go back on the 280 million per peso devaluation, what's the base of that? And on Tongonan, just to confirm, after January, Tongonan will be improving its capacity factor by to 90%. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'll answer the Tongonan first, Jason. The Tongonan plant between now and July 31 next year, I think a reasonable assumption is it will hover at about 75% reliability, similar to past 2 to 3 years track record though. And then starting end of July next year, we will be upgrading the units one after the other. Come 2017, when all the units are running, around February. But the earlier units will be coming back online sooner now. I think the first unit will be out 54 days because in addition to the turbine works, we are completely changing the control systems to the latest cutting-edge Siemens control systems. So the first unit will be out 54 days. The succeeding unit will be out about 45 days. The third unit, the target is to be out about 40 days. And if you put all of that together, sometime in about February of 2017, what we do expect to have is a plant that's reliability that will shoot up in the 90 to 95% range. And in that time frame, a whole list of items in the plant, pumps, insulators, a lot of things will be changed between now and February 2017, and then some other items will be upgraded in 2017. But we do expect that the investment, the capex, will begin to pay off full year for Tongonan sometime around 2017. And as mentioned earlier, the plant will gain a net output of about 10.5 megawatts. And at current prices, each megawatt delivers about 40 million pesos a year. So we're really looking at an uptick in revenues from Tongonan in the 2017 timeframe of about 400. But 2016, I think we still should reasonably expect reliability of where it is today, and then we'll have planned outages, as mentioned earlier.
Yeah. For your first question with respect to the base of the $280 million net forex exposure, that's actually the existing exposure as of today. No? So, for example, if I think we ended June 30 at 45.09, and as of today we're about a peso. The peso is about 46.16 if I'm not mistaken. So more than about a peso, no, already today. So that you will see if we do the financials today, a net effect on our net income of about 280 million peso lower as a result. No? If you look at the forex loss, you'll see a higher number again of about 390, and again that's because the 110 million net exposure is reflected in the revenue portion. So we should expect revenue to increase by about 110 roughly, and then forex loss of about 390, which will give us a net amount of 280.
As a result of the hedging.
As a result of the contract. That's already net of hedging.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you. That's very clear.
It appears there are no further questions at this time. I will now hand the call over to Mr. Riccio for any additional or closing remarks. Please go ahead, sir.
Well, anyway, in behalf of management of EBC, I would thank everyone who has dialed in. Thank you very much, and look forward to your continued participation in the succeeding calls.
Thank you.
This concludes today's conference. Thank you everyone for your participation. You may now hang up.